PhD&D and another edition of Moving Forth, where we try to make a better 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons and where we try to teach the game or aspects of the game people have questions on. This, as a matter of fact, is a requested video by Samaj1993, I think that's how you say it. It's James spelled backwards, I know that much. This video is about mounts, mounted combat in 4th edition. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Now first I'm going to go and tell you that I once wrote an article on how to, it's called CPR, Campaign Project Rescue is what that stands for. How to make your campaign, how to make a dead campaign come back to life. Or how to make a campaign, breathe life into your story when it seems like it's not there, when it seems like everyone's dragging a little bit. And one of the things in that article was, in fact, give them mounts. If it seems like things are dragging, give them mounts. That can make things pick up quite a bit. It gives them, they're like a companion that they're attached to, and they often become more attached to creatures than, other people or like servants or things like that. So this is a big way to pick up a campaign if you feel like it's dragging a little bit. You also have to be careful, which we'll talk about, but I'm going to move right on into the rules of mounts and mounted combat in D&D 4th edition. So first of all, the mount has to be of a large size category to start with, and it has to be one size category bigger than you. So if you're large, it has to be one size up, which I think is huge. A large creature, for those who don't know, takes up 4 squares on a grid. It's a 2x2 space. This, obviously something like a horse or like a dire wolf. I'm going to use those two examples quite a bit in this, but that's the size it has to be. You have to be adjacent to a mount, obviously, to mount it or dismount, and that would be a standard action. Talk more about that in a second. The mount has to be willing, though, as well. You cannot, obviously, approach an enemy's mount, get on it, and expect it to, immediately follow whatever commands you give it. So it has to be willing. And it's assumed in 4th edition that you have a saddle for the mount. You can obviously try to perform mounted combat or something else on a mount without one. However, you take a -2 to your attacks, to your armor class, and to your reflex defense as well. So mounted combat feat is also something to be wary of. Now, mounted combat feat allows you to have a few more options, get more benefits out of it. And if you take this feat, you will get an ability granted by that mount. If it's a specified mount in the monster manual, they will have some ability. So if you have the feat, you gain that ability. Now, for example, with the war horse, for instance, I believe it has a charging ability where on any charge attack, if you've got the mounted combat feat, you can actually add 5 to your damage on any of those. And like a dire wolf, I think has pack hunter. So you have combat advantage if you are facing an enemy that is adjacent to one of your allies. So stuff like that, you can just gain extra little bits if you have the mounted combat feat, as well as all athletics, acrobatics, endurance, and stealth checks can be made with your base skill bonus if it's better than the mounts. So that also is included if you have the mounted combat feat. You occupy the same space as your mount. If you're working with a gridded system, you need to know that specifically, especially if you have a bigger and bigger mount. You occupy the same space, and either of you can be targeted by attacks, either or. If it's an area attack or like a burst attack that hits you both, then it hits you both. But if it's going to hit one person, they can target either or. Now, opportunity attacks are something I've changed the rules a little bit on. Opportunity attacks, if you move away, if you and your mount move away from someone and grant them an opportunity attack, they can choose who they attack, you or the mount. If you grant an opportunity attack by performing a ranged attack with someone standing next to you, for instance, a wizard casting a spell, across the battlefield, or an archer shooting someone across the battlefield, and you're ignoring the guy right next to you, he gets an opportunity attack. I say scratch that rule. You have usually a trained, battle-hardened mount that you are riding that is, if you are focusing your attention way far away, that mount can protect you from someone right next to you. So scratch that rule. The official rule is that it still grants an opportunity to attack just on you, not on the mount. But I say not even on you. That's my suggestion there. Forced movement is something else. Forced movement is up to you which of you is forced. If someone forces you off of your mount, you can choose to take the mount with you. Like if you are pushed back 10 feet or 2 squares, you can choose to go that 10 feet with your mount so that you stay on it, or you can choose to be thrown from the mount. That's up to you, rule-wise there. So if you want to dismount at that time, if it's advantageous for you to be off the mount, then do so at that time. And if it seems like I'm bouncing around, I apologize. I'm actually going through my notes, which went straight through the book, through the Dungeon Master's Guide. But these are the things you're going to need to know for mounted combat. Now let's dive right into the combat. Initiative. You both act on your initiative whenever that turn comes up. You get your standard, your move, and your minor action combined between the two of you. You get those 3, like anyone else would. However, if you are dismounted, you both act on that same initiative count, but you both have your own turns. So you get standard move minor, your mount gets standard move minor. However, basically, if at any point you are mounted during that turn, you have to take combined actions between the two. If you were not mounted at all during that turn, you both get your own turn during that one. So that was confusing how I worded that. I apologize, but you also both get an immediate reaction, immediate interrupt, and immediate action. If you are mounted on the mount at that time, you share that, so that can be an opportunity attack, things like that. The mount can also attack. If you take a standard action to have your mount attack, say like a charge. A charge is you move your mount's speed and attack with either your mount or you. That's a charge. Then your mount has to attack with a -2 to hit unless you have the mounted combat feat. If you're not trained in fighting on a mount, obviously it's going to be harder for that mount to actually attack something. But you don't actually take that penalty if you attack, which is a little bogus to me, but it's the rules. Change it how you want. Mounts also don't like enclosed spaces, so don't take your warhorse down into a dungeon. There are specific rules. I believe they take a -2 to just about everything, even defenses and things like that. Just don't take them down there. That's ridiculous. You don't need a mount in a dungeon. If you're in the Underdark or something, like huge caverns, I could see that. But, mounts that are not from down there, like horses, direwolves, things like that, they don't need to be down there. If you're riding a giant spider, that's something else. Now, prone, if they knock your mount prone with an attack, knock it over, you are thrown from the mount. You can choose where you land. If you want as a DM to change that and you choose where they land, that's fine, but you are dismounted at that time. If they attack you with something that makes you go prone, then you can make a saving throw, just a standard saving throw. 9 and below is fail, 10 and up, you succeed. If you succeed, you are not dismounted, you stay on your mount, and you're not prone. That's an advantage to being on a creature like that. So that is the rules for combat, for mounted combat. I think that covers just about everything. Sorry if it's just a little, jumping around, but that's what you need to know for mounted combat. Now, ideas for mounts, you can use, as I've said before, different horses. War horses are great if you're going to do some type of battlefield, standard battle. I had a guy who wanted to ride a direwolf into battle, and direwolf is actually a mount according to the monster manual. I had one who wanted to ride a drake, which I don't know. I'm going to check here really quickly. I don't think a drake is an actual mount or classified as a mount, which just means that it doesn't have the extra ability. So that's a perfect opportunity for you as a dungeon master to take that and make your own custom ability. That's the fun. And I don't see any of these. Yeah, different drakes in here. Oh, no, a Rage Drake. Rage Drake is a mount, and it's got Raging Mount, which is the ability you get. You have to be 5th level or higher to be a rider, but you get a +2 to attack rolls and damage rolls with melee attacks on that one. So Drake is another one. You've got things like, unicorns, spiders, like giant spiders like the Driders in the Underdark. These are great mounts. It really depends on the personality of the character. What are they really going to want? Don't give them something they don't want. Mounts can make things complicated. You need to understand the rules. So make sure they really want what, there's all this struggle for. Now, I've had one guy who wanted a Dire Panther, and if there's no template for it, don't worry about it. Find one close to it. Come up with a cool ability that's not overpowered, and you've got an awesome mount for your characters. So, that's mounted combat in Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition. It can make things confusing, so if you're a new GM or new players, I'd stay away from it for a little bit. You have to be a little higher level anyways to mount certain things. Like first level, you can't ride a lot of animals into combat very efficiently anyways, or effectively. So you have to meet the prerequisites. Like I said, that Drake, you had to be a 5th level rider or higher. Warhorse might be 3rd level or higher. So just meet those requirements, understand the rules, make sure your players, I asked my players way back, I gave them mounts in one of my games, and I asked them, come up with the mount you want because it's your game. I want you to ride whatever into battle you want to ride. And so we got, like I said, the Drake, a Dire Wolf, a Warhorse. One guy at one point had a unicorn. So things like that. So mounts can be fun, complicated with the rules, as long as you understand them, though. It really can make things interesting. Just don't let them abuse the power. And also another warning, when you get to Epic tier, if you get to Epic tier D&D for 4th edition, mounts are pretty much worthless. Your guys can fly anyways. They don't need anything like that. Mounts honestly just get in the way when you get to those really higher levels. So hope that helps out. That's mounted combat for D&D 4th edition. If you have any questions, suggestions, anything you want to see on Moving Forth, please let me know. I'm open to that, and I will try to reply to every single request that's given to me. And head on over to the Facebook page, PHD&D on Facebook. Like it there. I try to keep some updates there. And if I know you're interested in certain topics, more than willing to talk about that or go into that. So thank you very much for watching, and that's Mounted Combat for D&D and Moving Forth.